What's happening, everybody? Today we're going to be looking at Fissidens+fontanus, aka phoenix+moss. This moss can be found growing in North America, so it can tolerate higher pHs between 6 to 8 pH. The reason I didn't really mention the pH or CO2 with the Riccardia is because it's just kind of a given with mosses. Most mosses, they're going to want acidic soft water and CO2 if you want to grow them to perfection. I'm not saying that they have to have it, but I'm talking about the ideal conditions for these plants. If you want to have the thick, lush dome, if you want to trim it with your scissors and get it nice and thick like a thick carpet. And so Fissidens can tolerate higher pHs. Again, I would have it in soft acidic water. Of course, Fissidens and the Riccardia and any moss is going to benefit from CO2. And when I'm talking about having something in a high light environment, of course, you're going to want to have CO2. As well, Fissidens is similar to Riccardia. You don't really have to trim it. You just attach it to the wood via super glue, or you can do the mesh pad if you prefer. Put it on the mesh pad and wrap some thread around it, or wrap some fishing line around the mesh pad and set that anywhere you like. And maybe you could even super glue the mesh pad down to the rock or to the driftwood. But personally, I just strip the Fissidens into pieces. Just thin it out as much as you can. With most mosses, you want to thin them out, because if you don't, once you put the moss on the rock or the driftwood, the bottom half's just going to rot away. Fissidens is a little easier to work with, though. When it comes to that, it's a little more forgiving than other mosses, which I'll talk about in future episodes. But I'll just rip the Fissidens up, and because it's pretty long and stringy, it kind of just rips up into more long lengths, more hot dog lengths, basically. And what I'll do is I'll super glue one end. That way the super glue doesn't get all over my fingers, because at that point it's extremely hard to, of course, plant. So I'll put super glue on one end, and then I'll just put that onto the driftwood, and then the Fissidens will find its way onto the driftwood and it will attach. It attaches very easily to driftwood and rocks. It never or seldom becomes detached. Even when it gets bigger and bigger, it kind of grows on top of itself, and it doesn't branch out as much, so the individual pieces will get really, really long. So it'll just become a dome on its own. You don't really have to trim it to be a dome, similar to Riccardia. When it comes to trimming and maintenance, it is one of the easiest mosses to grow in that context. Of course, it can be a little bit more demanding, because you do want higher light and CO2 and soft acidic water if you want to have it, show off its optimum growth patterns and everything like that. And that's basically it. You want to just make sure you're going to have low temperatures as well, 74 to 76 degrees Fahrenheit, 23 to 24 degrees Celsius, medium to high CO2, and medium to high light. You can have more rigorous fish. It is more hardy than the Riccardia. The Riccardia is very delicate. Fissidens isn't nearly as delicate. And that's basically it. In the next episode, we're going to talk about the famous, the regular, and I guess the overused Java moss. Nobody loves Java moss anymore, but I actually do. I think it's pretty awesome, especially if you have it in the right conditions and you keep it trimmed. It can actually, in my opinion, be one of the most attractive mosses. Until next time, keep your sleeves wet. Peace out.